Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Wadhwani Viewpoint. My name is Manali Shah and today's conversation is going to be all about women and startups. November 19th is commemorated as Women's Entrepreneurship Day, and what better occasion to talk about the economic transformation that Indian women entrepreneurs can bring about. According to McKinsey, women's participation in the economy can add about $770 million to the GDP by 2025. Now that's an impressive number. In fact, women have the power to bring about not just economic transformation, but also a positive outcome at a personal, societal, and community level. India's ecosystem has been evolving quite rapidly, and we've seen a lot of positive changes along the way. For example, just recently, Falguni Nayar became the first Indian woman to take a unicorn public. But of course, there's a long road ahead. With that said, women's entrepreneurship is a topic that's very close to all of us at the Wadhwani Foundation. Today, we have 4 very successful women entrepreneurs with us, and we are going to have a very thoughtful and insightful session. So I'd like to thank everyone on the panel for taking the time out to be here. Let me begin by introducing everyone. So first off, we have Kajal Malik, the co-founder of PickMyWork. Founded in 2019, PickMyWork is a gig platform that sources and trains agents to help digital companies acquire clients through a pay-per-task model. This means that the digital companies acquire clients at a low acquisition cost. Kajal, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here on this panel with beautiful women.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nisary Mahesh, the founder of HerMoneyTalks, a platform for women's financial empowerment through financial inclusion and upskilling. HerMoneyTalk works pan-India to bridge the gap in financial literacy for women and promotes women's entrepreneurship. As of right now, they have a robust community of over 50,000 women, and they hope to reach out to over 3 lakh women by 2023. That's amazing. Nisary, welcome.
Thank you, Manali. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel.
I'd like to now introduce Tanya Swetta, the co-founder and CEO of Ideate Media Solutions, an integrated marketing communications firm that's headquartered in Mumbai but has an office in New York as well. Their expertise ranges from working with startups and Fortune 500 companies alike. They've worked with local and global brands across sectors. Tanya, welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you, Manali. It's a pleasure to be here.
And last but of course not the least, we have Priya Prakash, the co-founder and COO of Naturally Yours, a healthy noodles and pasta brand. The bootstrapped company was founded in 2010, and Priya is a certified nutrition coach and biotechnologist. Priya, welcome.
Thank you so much, Manali. Pleasure to be here in the panel today.
Great. I'm very excited for the conversation that's about to begin. So let's dive straight into it. Nisary, my first question would be to you. According to Boston Consulting Group, women-led startups provide 35% more ROI compared to startups led by men. They also provide a more inclusive work culture. They employ 3x more women. What do you think are the factors behind these impressive numbers?
See, we women by nature, we are very careful in taking each steps, whether it is our family planning or financial budgeting at home or even of our business. And secondly, we are very dedicated to whatever we are doing, whether it is, say, suppose you are, I have seen many women who have great hobbies, which have turned into great products and services as a business. So we are so passionate, if something we are passionate about and we are turning that to a career, we work so dedicatedly to make that or build that to a great venture. Similarly, many women, they are juggling with multiple things like whether their home responsibilities, their kids and their business, and we are doing all this very well. Given all these facts that we all know that women have that innate sense of multitasking, and we tend to take careful steps when it comes to anything. And if you take families as an example, we have seen that women always think in long terms. Like we always think about the moment you have a kid, we'll be starting to think about their future, their education, even their marriage also if you have a daughter. So that's how we women plan in a long term. Compared to this, if you take men as an example, they may not be planning in the long term. Mostly they like to go with impulse and they make a lot of quick decisions. they're more confident in taking a decision compared to women. But that also means that they think on a shorter terms and make quick decisions, which can go wrong also. When it comes to families, that balance between man and women planning things together can bring about a lot of changes, and that's really good. So considering all these innate qualities women have, when it comes to entrepreneurship, we tend to showcase all these strengths like careful steps, long planning, focus on our product or services. And this is contributing to the greater ROI, growth, and profitability of women-led startups. But unfortunately, it is a fact that total women entrepreneurs in the country is less than 20% till now. A lot more have to be done in terms of promoting women entrepreneurship, which can really bring about a lot of changes in the economy and even the lifestyle, or even taking further steps towards women empowerment.
Right, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. And taking off on my previous question, Kajal, I'd like to talk to you about it. So while the entrepreneurship ecosystem has grown by leaps and bounds, only 7 out of every 100 entrepreneur is a woman. What do you think is holding Indian women back?
If I actually divide an entrepreneur's journey and the qualities that would, drill an entrepreneur down, I would actually, the 3 main that come to my head is, of course, an idea that you believe in. So belief in idea is number 1. Number 2 is the confidence to leave everything and start out, right? Come what may, I'm going to give it my all. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is persevering through the things that come with entrepreneurship. So, of course, there's so much more, but these 3, in my opinion, are the biggest, right? And if I talk about ideas is something that everybody gets. It's irrespective of the gender. We get it. Sometimes we keep in our head. Sometimes we talk to our friends about it. And there are people who go on and create companies out of it, right? If I talk about perseverance, what I feel is that women naturally go through the things on a monthly basis through our periods. We know that there is going to be one period during the month where we are going to be off, might have pain, might have some other problems, but we know we plan for it, we get through it, we persevere through the worst on a monthly basis. So on a basic level, I feel that perseverance is something which is there, right? Now it comes down to the confidence to start up, and that is where, in my opinion, is where we lose. The kind of language we use in the corporate, maybe we could try that. Should we do this? While a man would say, we should do this and there'll be growth in the next quarter, right? So there is that missing confidence wala piece, which actually begins from the time of our childhood, right? For everything we're supposed to take permission from our parents. If I have to wear short clothes, if I have to go to a party, if I have to go play outside with my friends, I have to take permission from parents. Now, very few people are lucky enough to not be in a household where the woman does not, or the girl does not have to take permission. Once she grows old, let's say she gets married, she's earning, she still has to take permission for most of the things from, or discuss it with her in-laws and her husband, which is almost akin to taking that permission. Now, in this permission culture, so many women actually get lost. They're just scared to take permission, and they know they'll get lost in the process somehow. So unfortunately, this is one thing where we are stuck in India. Very few women have the confidence to do it on their own because they know कि उन्हें आदत हो गई है permission. And very few have that privileged culture to privilege in their household, where they actually do not have to take permission before taking that next step, right? People in India, if I have to talk about something extremely basic that let's say a lady and a husband both are earning well. The husband gets another location and a better job. The lady has to move with him and find a job in that location. That is the kind of culture, unfortunately, we are living in, and it's very rare where a woman doesn't really have to go along with the husband in case the husband is changing his job location. So it is it is going to take a long period of time for us to get where we want to in terms of giving women that power to think for herself and decide for herself. When I took this decision, I knew that there is going to be some a little bit of problem with the family, but I knew I'll be able to manage. I knew I can manage the worst in the family. I don't even have to take permission while I'm making a trip, in my family. So I'm one of the lucky few in the country who had this privilege, but everybody does not. So a lot of time is going to go by where we actually reach the stage where a woman is confident enough to go do it on her own and let people know that, hey, I am doing this, you have to be okay, right? And a lot of things I think can change and quicken the process a little bit. Most of the times when you're reading about, women entrepreneurship, most of it is unfortunately bad news, except for, a few good news here and there, which you just started with actually, right? I'm not saying that we should not discuss the bad news. It's very important to discuss the bad news, but it is also important to discuss how to change that bad news into good news in some period of time, right? So we should celebrate that good news as much as possible. I mean, we should celebrate more women in entrepreneurship as much as possible. Great examples, let girls know that, from a young age, that if you want to do it, you have so many items to look at. And it is not that difficult. You should give it a try. They can probably start having this conversation with their families when they're young, right? I mean that is one change that could be brought about. And permission culture, I'm sure it's going to take a long time in India, but over a period of time, people like us can change these things. When it should never be permission. After 18, it should just be FYI. I'm doing this. Please support me.
Yes, here's to change. And taking off from that this line of thought, Tanya, I'd like to come to you now. From an ecosystem point of view, what are the changes that can be brought about?
I think there's already a lot of change coming about now, which is really nice to see. I think it's kind of accelerated over the last maybe 5 years. Prior to that, it was still very, very, slow. I think, when I was thinking about this, I really feel like there are various factors. There are too many factors actually that need to be addressed. But just looking at a few of the factors, I think one of them is, fair pay. When we look at something like fair pay, this is also applicable to women in the workforce, but it also kind of applies across the board to women entrepreneurs, right? If we look at the disparity in terms of the pay that a female as per a male would receive in the same environment, that disparity needs to be bridged. When that happens, it automatically gives more confidence as well to the woman to say that, hey, you know what, this is my skill set, this is what I'm bringing to the table, and this is how I will get my remuneration, or I will get my reward for what I am doing. I think another thing, as I mentioned right now, is that over the last 5 years, I think the government of India is also making a lot of positive steps in the direction of being able to support women entrepreneurs. Like now we have the Women Entrepreneurship platform by Niti Aayog, which is really, really great news for women entrepreneurs, because that I think is definitely going to help. And again, I think going back to our roots as children, as girls who've been brought up in India, I think one of the most important things that I feel is missing even in the schooling system is financial literacy. Right. So I think that when you have that and you have that power of financial literacy that you're backed with as a woman, it really helps you make the right decisions in terms of how you want to accelerate your business, or whether you want to get into a business, and if you have an idea, what is that idea and how can it be translated into a financially sound business. So I think financial literacy is again a very, very important aspect. I also believe that, women supporting women. So mentorship and support groups by women for women, I think makes a big difference. I think now that time is coming and we are seeing more and more of those kind of platforms. So it really helps young entrepreneurs, have a mentor. Like I think when I started out, I didn't really have any mentor. I really didn't have anyone to go to say, hey, you know what, I'm making this business decision. I think it's the right direction because this is really what I feel that the market needs. But how should I, like, this is the way I want to go about it, but is this the right way? Do you think that I can do this better? So I think all of those aspects really come out through mentorship. So I think these are some of the aspects that I feel would be really helpful in this direction.
Very well articulated, Tanya. Thank you. And now, Priya, you've been an entrepreneur for over a decade now. So, according to you, what are some of the pitfalls that women entrepreneurs specifically should avoid? This will be pretty helpful for the young and aspiring women founders that are tuning in.
Sure. So, talking about pitfalls, I can talk about a few that I've encountered, stumbled through in my journey. So, number one among that would be not networking enough. So, that is an issue that many entrepreneurs, men or women maybe a little more than men, encounter. So, basically, we have three kinds of networks. So, one is operational network, which we all have. Basically, individuals that are required for your business. So, it could be suppliers, it could be customers, it could be your logistics partners, your team, etc. So, all of us cultivate that. The second would be your personal network, so basically your friends and family. But the issue arises whenever you are stuck, like Tanya mentioned, like whenever you have some kind of a predicament, you have some kind of a confusion, how to go ahead here. So if we cannot turn to our customers for that, obviously. And if we go to our personal network, not many of them may be entrepreneurs. So they would not understand our struggles, like what we are going through, what is happening in our journey, because they do not relate to it. So at that time, it's very easy to kind of feel lonely that you are actually struggling alone. No one is actually sharing your struggle here. So that's where the third kind of network, which most of us ignore, is required, which is strategic network. Basically, speak to fellow entrepreneurs who are in a similar journey. They need not be in your category. They could just be just about anyone. But they're also going through the same struggles, maybe in different formats. So talking to them helps, and whenever you have some kind of a confusion, kind of unloading your confusion, unloading your fears, getting some kind of inputs, doing some pros and cons with that kind of network really helps. So speak to people. I mean, I think we should keep like one day, an hour, maybe every Friday, where you say that I'll probably reignite my passive contacts, my school friends, my college friends. It need not be with an agenda. Just say hi, hello. I mean, connect with them. LinkedIn has been great for me, where you connect with people, like anyone for that matter. I mean, you connect with them, get to know their journey. So that really helps. So networking is one pitfall I feel people have been kind of avoiding. Second would be the need to be perfect. Whether it is in your home front, whether it's in your office front, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, I'm like pulled in 1,000 different directions every single day. And I do drop the ball a few times. So it is necessary to know that, okay, it's okay. You made a mistake, move on. That's all. Not all mistakes are actually that fatal as how you make it out in your head. It's okay. You made a mistake. That's fine. Consider it as a stepping stone to bring about improvements in your organization, bring about improvements in yourself, and just move along. But what many a times happens is that you obsess over those mistakes. You kind of let that guilt and that self-criticism, we are our biggest critics. So you let that keep accumulating, and that eventually leads to you thinking that, oh my God, I'm not good at anything that I'm doing right now. I'm not doing a good job at home. I'm not doing a good job at office. So that is something that you need to overcome. That it's okay. Forgive yourself. I mean, that's it. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. You made a mistake. That's okay. Move on. Doesn't matter. So that is something that we need to kind of think that, okay, prioritize. This needs perfectionism. And there are some issues that kind of, okay, it's okay if it's not that great. Just go ahead with that. So that is the second thing. And the third thing, what I feel is that we tend to do everything. So we are great at multitasking. We are good at all these aspects. So let us do everything. I mean, if we don't do it, it will not done correctly. So I feel that is another issue. I mean, okay, keep a few things that are required for your organization, for the growth of your organization. What is really important, do it yourself. The rest, delegate it to people. If things go wrong, it's okay. Don't immediately jump on it that, I should have done that. That's why that went wrong. It's okay. If it went wrong, it's okay. Just empower the person, empower the team to handle it, help them to take care of it, and then stick to your lane so that you have some time for your family. You have some time to upskill yourself. I mean, you have to keep learning. That is something that you have to go on, whether an entrepreneur or not. I mean, you need to keep learning at every point of time. You need to learn new skills. And now, especially with the online advent, the opportunities that are available are like innumerable. So I think that is the third thing that I would say, that, okay, delegate. It will give you more time to keep your sanity. So those are the three things that I feel.
I think all of those three things really resonate with me just as a working professional. I'm not even an entrepreneur, but a lot of what you said applies to me as well. So yeah, very, very great insights. Now, Nisary, I'd like to ask a question to you. You work in the space of financial inclusion, and we all know that access to finance is one of the biggest stumbling blocks that women entrepreneurs face. What can be done to address this issue?
Basically, entrepreneurship is seen as something risky in our society. When it comes to men, no, you don't get that cushioning of monthly paycheck. That convenience is absent in entrepreneurship. When it comes to women, we always try to think you need the financial cushioning and you need the comfort zone to work according to flexible working hours, because you need to take care of your family as well. So women come from this background of being taught, or that conditioning of not taking risk. That is the first thing, or take lesser risk. And second is that you always have that feeling, I need to balance between my family and my business. So when you come from this kind of background, all this conditioning, all this societal conditioning, what happens is that when you go out and start your own business, there is a hesitation in our minds to take a risk, like especially when it comes to finances. Business, of course, we all know that it requires initial capital investment. And as we go ahead also, we have to take many decisions, especially when it comes to finance. Many women are privileged that they are getting the support of their families, like their parents or their husbands or even their siblings or good friends help them with this initial financial cushioning. Or maybe women in their late 40s or mid-career, when they venture out for entrepreneurship, they have their own financial cushioning. Like they have some savings of their own, which they are using to start their own startups or their business. Coming from this comfort zone, when we talk about numbers, that confidence level is missing a little bit there. So I come from a banking background. I've been working with the credit of some couple of banks. So what I see there is that women are really good with their products, their services, and they are excellent in customer service. But what happens is that when you come with your numbers, when you talk about your financial projections, somehow they don't showcase their confidence. From a bank's perspective, they definitely want to see that they are not risky by putting their money into your business. So they ask all these kind of questions like your financial projections, how are you going to achieve this, what is your risk appetite? When all these things comes, definitely I feel, even though women are really great, they can really do, many women I have seen, but when it comes to numbers, they prefer to give it to their co-founders, or they don't showcase their confidence level. So that's one thing which, contributing to the less access to finance for many women. Now I've been working in the startup field, like mentoring a lot of women and holding them to get funding. There also we are seeing the similar thing, like when it comes to the numbers, they leave the thing to the male co-founders who come and present it to the investor. So I guess one thing which we can do is that a lot of confidence building for women, especially that financial literacy, like Tanya mentioned, where they can talk confidently about their numbers, and a lot of things like when it comes to startups, like when their business plan projections, scale-up projections, valuation, funding, these kind of things. If you get that support ecosystem where women can learn a lot of things, they can understand, they can talk confidently, they get that network or that group where they can confidently talk about numbers in their peer groups. I think that can make a lot of difference to access of finance. And secondly, there are a lot of changes happening in the entrepreneur system. Like there are a lot of funds which are focused for women only, both private VC funds and even from the government and for even banks also. One thing what I felt is that these funds are not getting enough visibilities. So it's like even the government department, different departments have different schemes for women, but it's all scattered. So the MSME department have one scheme, the IT department will have another scheme, the Startup India will have a lot of schemes. So these are not in one platform, these are scattered in different platforms and the lack of awareness is there a lot. So what I would suggest is that women can be part of a lot of ecosystem, a lot of network and peer groups where they interact with other women entrepreneurs and ecosystem players, especially like Wadhwani Foundation and all, who can give that information, who can create that awareness about the existing schemes and programs for women. Right now, what is happening is that on one side, there is a huge demand, and on the other side, there is a supply, but these two are not meeting. A lot of blocks are coming in between, like whether it is supply is there, but the demand is not reaching that level. Actually, women are struggling to scale their startups because there's no enough ecosystem for that access to capital. But somehow they are not reaching out, and these plans or schemes are also not reaching to the right audience. So if we are able to bridge this gap between women and finance, I think we can do a lot of difference in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's great perspective, Nisary. Thanks for that. Now, Tanya, I'd like to come to you. You started up way back in 2001, and while the startup ecosystem has evolved and grown over the last couple of decades, what are the top 3 changes that you have observed specifically related to women's participation and role in the ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah, so as you said, yes, I started way back in 2001. It was a completely different time altogether, So I think that there are various factors, right, that lead to an overall society's evolution into a thought process. So when we look at, the 2000s, at that time, where was India? What was India doing? What was the economy like? What were the kind of impetus that was being given to women entrepreneurs and startups, and also, what was the kind of awareness that India as a country had of what was going on globally as well, right? So at that time, it was just the onset of everything in terms of cable and different and Western culture coming into India, international brands entering the market. So I think that, and in that phase, what happened is that there was very low awareness. Therefore, it was still growing and it was still kind of making its way into the ecosystem. So that, of course, affects women as well. It affects everybody in that ecosystem. So coming out of college and graduating, your worldview was much narrower than when you look at a girl who graduates from a university or a college today. So I think that is one of the major factors, I think, that makes a big difference in terms of how someone who today is an entrepreneur has a lot more available to them in order for them to be able to take that knowledge and to really create the right kind of ecosystem for themselves. So I think today women, what is helping women startups or startups in general is the fact that there's more empowerment, there's more knowledge, there is more awareness, right? So that's, I think, definitely, one of the things that I think is a big difference between 2001 and now. Also, I think there's also been, like, when you look at people like Falguni Nair, you look at Divya Gokulnath, you look at Upasna Tikku, these are all women who have kind of paved the way, right? They've paved the way for young entrepreneurs. They've given them that confidence and to be able to believe in the fact that they can create these startups which can even become unicorns, as you said. Right in your opening speech, So I think that that's another factor that's a big difference between now and then. And I think inherently one of the biggest things that I've seen in terms of change is perceptual change, right? Like when I started out, maybe for the first 7 or 8 years into what I did, and walking into boardrooms which were totally male dominated boardrooms where the whole perception of how they would perceive you was more on how you looked rather than what you really brought to the table, right? So really having to fight that entire thought process almost on a subliminal level. It's not like you were getting into a physical verbal fight, but it was literally like a perceptual fight that you were having, sitting at that boardroom and trying to prove your own mettle in a male-dominated arena. Not that I'm not saying that it's not there even today, but I feel that has also drastically reduced. There's also a lot more representation of females in the boardroom, so that is also making a big difference. Plus, I feel like, because, as I mentioned, all these women and many more, I mean, these are just some women who I've mentioned. I think every woman here is an amazing example of being a fabulous entrepreneur, right? I think just these small steps have really helped women with startups today. So I think all in all, these three factors would play a very large role in what is the difference between how it was 15-20 years ago to how it is today.
Right, you've painted a very vivid picture of the ecosystem then and now. And taking off from something you said, Priya, I'd like to get your thoughts on something. How important do you think it is to have powerful role models or public figures that women entrepreneurs can look up to and feel inspired by? What's the difference that it can make?
So, Manali, I feel that role models are definitely required, so that you know that how high you can basically aim, how far you can go, basic framework, basic strategies that are required to reach that. But personally, what I feel is that it need not be a public figure. It need not be someone who has really reached that kind of heights. It can be just about anyone around you, whoever inspires you to do better. For instance, since my childhood, my mom has been my biggest role model. She's a homemaker, but she's always had that ideology that do the best with what you're given. So that is something which stuck to me, and probably something that helped me during the COVID lockdown as well. I mean, that time you had to make do with what is available. So, I mean, that was the biggest learning that I felt was from my role model. That's my mom. But right now, I feel that every entrepreneur around is like a huge role model. Sometimes you can look at a friend, you can look at a relative, you can look at a competitor who is doing better than you and try to learn. I mean, okay, they are doing something better than you. That's why they are there where they are there right now. So learn from them. Keep your ego aside and learn from anyone who inspires you to do better. That is something that I feel is required. And currently, I am a part of Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program. So it is basically a program for women entrepreneurs to scale their business. It is sponsored by Goldman Sachs and it is conducted at IIM Bangalore. So that is a platform where I feel it's like a huge eye-opener, where I am with 65 other women in my cohort, everyone from different diverse kind of segments. But I get to learn so much from them. Okay, this is the journey that they've had. This is the struggle that they've had. This is how they have kind of overcome it. So, I mean, that is the kind of role model that I would see. People around you who inspire you to do better. So, I feel that's my idea of a role model. Thanks.
Great, thanks for that. I'd like to come to you next, Kajal. Would you share some advice for aspiring and young women entrepreneurs?
For aspiring, yes. I think as a young person, you get ideas and you're like, okay, I should pursue this, or maybe I'll pursue this 5 years later, then I'll be a little more financially comfortable. Or you always feel that in 5 years your life will be very good. The life just gets more complicated in 5 years. You might have loans, you might have a husband, you might have kids, you might have more people to discuss before taking a decision, right? So whenever you think that you have the right idea and you should start, just start it. Do it today. Quit your college in case you want to, quit your job in case you want to, and try to pursue it today, because the kind of learnings you'll have in the next 5 years, that will surpass everything that you might get otherwise in those 5 years, right? So please don't wait for those hunky-dory 5 years to come when you'll have a lot of money in the bank to fund your startup. That day may or may not come, but today you have it. You have today. So make do with it. Take advantage of it. So for all aspiring entrepreneurs, do it today.
Okay, seize the day, people. Seize the day. That's the message here. Okay, and finally, I would like thoughts from the panel. Your wishes and message to everyone on the occasion of Women's Entrepreneurship Day. Let's begin with Tanya. What would be your message?
Okay, when a message to women, right? Like women, I feel like all women are we are amazing multitaskers. We're amazing problem solvers. And I also think that we have a really, really strong intuition as compared to men. I feel like as women, we just know what is going to work and what's not going to work, or we have this intuition to understand that things are going to go in a certain way. So these are all amazing qualities that we have as women, right? And of course, I think that for women entrepreneurs, I think it's about taking that step, making those bold decisions, do it. Obviously, you already have all of these aspects in your personality to understand that before you make that decision, you're already going to be thinking it through. Don't overthink it. Definitely, I think that's a very important aspect. As Priya mentioned, sometimes we get stuck in that space. So make bold decisions. If you have that drive to be an entrepreneur, you already have all the qualities that an entrepreneur requires. So make those decisions, move ahead, and move ahead with confidence.
Wonderful. Nisary, let's come to you next.
What I would like to tell is that to all women, think beyond your boundaries, because it's not just your city or your state or your network through which you can bring business. We have wonderful platforms like LinkedIn where you can get connected to global leaders. So think beyond your boundaries, dream big, dream high. Of course, you don't need to feel guilty that, of course, when we pursue our business, or our career, a lot of compromises we have to make at our home front. You don't need to feel guilty that I couldn't be a great mom, I couldn't be a great wife, or I couldn't be a great daughter. When you achieve or excel in your career, all these things will be in place. So don't try to become a superwoman or think of your restrictions or your constraints. Dream big, dream high, and definitely there will be a way to achieve your goals and aspirations.
Wonderful. Priya, how about you, your message?
So my message would be that if you have a great idea, go for it, start with it. Don't think that, okay, I don't know every aspect of this business. Start with it, get a good team, ask for help, and move on. Start with it. You cannot wait to know everything before you start a business. There will be things that you don't know on the way. Even when you're 10 years down into business, you will still have things that you don't know. It's okay. Ask for help and move on. And the mantra that we've always followed in our business is hard work, integrity, and consistency. So be at it and you'll do wonders. And don't be scared of change. If you have to do a course correction, you have to shift, it's okay. Shift, change, move forward. So that is something that I would like to say to everyone.
Great. And let's hear from Kajal now.
So it actually stems from what I was talking about, the permission culture. And while you cannot change the ecosystem around you very fast, the one thing that you can do is how you communicate, right? So instead of taking permission, say, I want to do this, will you help me? And it is difficult to say no to something like that. When you take permission, you actually put the person in power to give you that permission. But when you request for help, it is extremely difficult to say no. So think about it, decide it, and then communicate it accordingly so that you have the might of your entire ecosystem, your family with you when you take that decision and stand up for yourself. So just that. And one more thing to the in general ecosystem, I want to say, because something I think which is troubling me a lot. Please stop with putting him everywhere. These women are also there. There is a salesperson, it is not a salesman. There is a saleswoman too in the world. In every call I'm cringing that by default it's always he, him. No, it is not he, him. Women are everywhere too. I'm talking to you, for God's sake. Just try to acknowledge that women are there as well. The more we do it, the more women will feel included in everything. So it actually boils down to how you communicate. That's basically in general for the ecosystem.